because she was watching me. So, but what I want to talk to y'all about today are what I call my goon witches. And I don't know if you remember back in well, even now in cartoons, like the goons are the henchmen, are the guys who are the enforcers who go and, send my goons out to take care of business, whatever. So when I guess it was like my first few years of college, I also experienced a goon situation, and that's the story I kind of want to tell y'all today. And just like my boys here, I have on my goon attire, and I kind of want to tell you through this. One day, I was down walking through Deep Ellum. I was getting off the train, I was trying to go home, but it was late at night. I love walking at night. The weather is beautiful, so I'm like, all right, I'll just take a little stroll, and it'll be, it'll be all good. I get to the bus station that I'm supposed to be at, and I see these two dudes dressed in all black coming out of the bushes, and I'm like, yo, that's not weird at all, but I'm gonna mind my own business, because, whatever they were doing, it's all good. But then I noticed that both guys split, so one of them went to the right of me, and the other one went to the left. And I'm on the phone with my ex-girlfriend at the time. So I'm like, all right, so this ain't coincidence. Like, these dudes think I'm from downtown, I'm not from South Dallas, like I don't know what's happening. So I'm there on my phone just kind of pacing around, and I happen to look to my right, and I see the guy at the next stop, down like a little further down the sidewalk, kind of sprinting up and down, and I'm like, okay, something's really about to happen. And then I turn to the left, and there's a gun in my face, like right here. So my friends know, but I used to do martial arts back in the day, and I think I'm a pretty good fighter. So I happen to look over, I glance over, I see the gun pointed at my head, I turn around, I pop the guy with my elbow. We fall to the ground, and we're kind of like stumbling a little bit over the gun, and then something yells at me to get up. The other guy's coming. So when I stood, I don't know if you've ever felt a super big rush of adrenaline before, but when it happened to me, it made me feel giant. Like as I stood, I felt like I towered over this dude, and I'm looking down at this guy, and it felt like I was huge, colossal. And then the guy runs up on me, and he's like, man, give me this stuff, man, give me this stuff. And in that moment, it's like this is a life or death situation, but in the moment, only thing I could think of was, who the hell says give me the stuff in a robbery? Like, I felt like I was in one of those old 70 films, where they're like, say jive turkey, give me the stuff, man. But not really paying attention to the other guy, that dude was getting up, and he had already drawn his gun. And so I'm looking at this guy, me and him standing toe to toe. I have my bag in my hand, I have my phone in my hand, and I'm like, just give him your stuff. And so my hands reach out, but they stop, kind of in this kind of sort of fighter stance. And I'm like, shit, I guess we're fighting, because apparently my body's not allowing me to give you my stuff. And then the guy points the gun and he fires one off at us. His friend takes off running, I take off running, I'm hauling ass around the corner. I look back, they're not there anymore. So I'm calling 911, I'm like, hey, I just got shot at, these guys just tried to rob me. And I was actually passing this older gentleman that was sitting at the next bus stop. And he overheard me on the phone, he's like, young bud, you just got shot at? Are they coming right now? And he gets up and he kind of scurries off. I run over to the Baylor station, and I hit the doorbell, and the dude comes on, the security comes on the announcer. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get in the building. Some guy just tried to rob me. These dudes just tried to rob me. He's like, oh my God, okay. Still on the phone with 911. He sends security around to me, but there are these really high bushes. So security passes me up, he didn't even see me. But less than 10 seconds after that, I got 5 cop cars right there where I am. And they're like, are you okay? Did you get hit? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know, I'm kind of still in shock that this is even happening. And they're like, are you okay with going back to the scene of the crime? And I was like, yeah, y'all got guns, I'll stay in the car. It's cool. It's cool. So we drive back there, and the cops kind of replaying the scene. He was like, okay, so you guys fell to the ground and you tumbled over the gun, and then he shot over to the side. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he shot at me. He's like, you sure you didn't fall down and just point in the air and just fire one off? I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he shot at me. He was like, how did you know that when you weren't facing him? And I told him I could see him kind of out of the peripheral view of my eye. And I remembered something when I was running. I've gone to gun ranges before, and I've shot guns before. And I was running, I could taste something that kind of tastes like blood, a little like nickel. And when I was running towards Baylor, I was like patting myself down. I'm like, am I bleeding? Did I get shot? Did I not notice that this thing happened? But what it actually was, it was a taste of gunpowder in my mouth. And I had told him that. I was like, I could taste the gunpowder as I left. And he was like, whoa, you are lucky, because if you were that close, he should have hit you. It's like, you must have hit him so hard that you dazed him, and when he got up, he barely missed. But he should have absolutely taken you out. The other thing was, during that moment, there was like no cars on the street. No cars, no one coming by, no one walking by, no one driving by. People, we were next to apartments. No one even came out of the apartments when that happened. When the cops were there with me, a crowd of 20 people walked outside. And they were like, oh, that was a gunshot? We thought that was a car backfiring. So for the 5 minutes that I was running, the 5 minutes of me talking to the cops, the 5 minutes it took for us to get back there, 20 minutes would have gone by and I was just laid there in the middle of the street, shot. And no one would have known anything. I would have just bled out. So the officer was like, okay, well, we're gonna file a police report. You know, you're gonna file a police report and follow up with the detective, and we're gonna let you, you're free to go home. Again, I'm on the bus. And they were like, you're free to go home. I'm like, can I get a ride? Like, I don't think I should be taking the bus now. And then they played musical chairs on who was gonna take me home. They're like, yeah, Dominguez, you good? Like, can you give him a ride? I ended up getting a ride by the rookie. And so the rookie gives me, I get in his car, I'm in the backseat. Backseat of cop cars are terrible. This is the first time I've ever ridden in the backseat of a cop car. It is absolutely terrible. Do you remember McDonald's, those little plastic seats that they had? That's exactly what they have in the backseat of cop car. And I was like, dude, this is why those dudes are pissed off on cops kicking out of the windows. Like, the chairs are so hard, and I couldn't even fit back there. I'm 6'4". This space was at least maybe 5'7", 5'8", normal person height. So I'm squished up in the back seat, and he's telling me, he's like, man, you're really lucky, because on our rookie routines, like what they do for us when we first get hired, they send us to South Dallas. They send us here to deal with the crime that happens here, because it's so awful. So being fresh on the beat, this is where we come. So right here in this area is high crime area. And I was like, dude, that's kind of messed up all at the same time. So I get home, I tell my folks I got shot at, and my dad's first reaction is like, get a gun. That's what you gotta do. You gotta get a gun with you. You gotta carry that with you at all times to be safe. And that rubbed me the wrong way, because the dudes that were robbing me were probably like 16, 17 years old. And I was like, man, what would have happened if I did get a hold of a gun? What would have happened if my adrenaline was just going and I was just reacting to who I thought were two grown men robbing me? But then when I realized that they weren't, and I realized that the gun wasn't here, it was more like this. It was really intense. It was super intense. And I'd like to think that kid got an ass whooping, that he just stopped his whole life of crime and he didn't want to do that anymore. But the reality of the situation is, in like low income areas, some people do what they have to do, and I understand it to a certain extent. But you know what I mean? Like it was kind of eye opening, and it really made me think about my neighborhood and the people growing up in it, and me growing up in my neighborhood. And the next day, I had ice cream, and it was the best ice cream I've ever had. And like a lot of my friends know this story already, because they saw the post. And they saw me, and they probably heard me tell it like a million times. But it's cool because I can laugh about it now and create work. about it now. Like, these are my two goons. This is just regular Goon Witch, and this is Goon Witch, the right-hand man. But yeah, thank y'all for listening.